Imagine a world where the word Google doesn't exist. No colorful G, no minimalist homepage. Just a void. In 1996, that world was real. And in that world, there was a king. It was a site so fast, so powerful, that it indexed the entire internet in days, while everyone else took months. It was the first Google. It was the pinnacle of human engineering. Yet, if you walk into a boardroom today and mention its name, you'll get nothing but a blank stare. Or worse, a smirk. It had the technology. It had the users. It had billions of dollars. But while Larry Page and Sergey Brin were still tinkering in a garage, this company had already won. And then, in a series of some of the most catastrophic business decisions in history, they threw it all away. This is the story of how you can have everything, and still lose it all to a single search bar. This is the story of AltaVista. To understand the magnitude of this fall, we have to look at the starvation that preceded the feast. The early 1990s wasn't the era of easy VC money and overnight unicorns. It was the era of the gatekeepers. Digital Equipment Corporation, better known as DEC, was a hardware titan. They built the massive, cold, humming machines that powered the world's first networks. But by 1994, the giant was slowing down. They were the old guard, bleeding cash and struggling to stay relevant in a world that was moving too fast for their heavy hardware. Deep inside their research lab in Palo Alto, 3 engineers, Louis Munier, Michael Burrows, and Paul Flaherty, were working in the shadows. They weren't trying to disrupt an industry. They weren't looking for an IPO. They were simply trying to prove a point. At the time, the internet was a mess. Everyone told them the web was too chaotic to organize. They said it was a library where all the books were thrown on the floor and the librarian had quit. It's a technical impossibility, the executives told them. Stop playing with the web and focus on selling the hardware boxes. But these 3 men didn't listen. They spent grueling late nights fueled by bitter coffee and the relentless hum of the Alpha 8400 supercomputer. They built a crawler, a digital predator designed to hunt down every single page on the web. When they finally turned it on, they expected a ripple in the tech community. What they got was a technological tsunami that would change human history forever. December 15, 1995. The world changed forever at midnight, but almost nobody noticed the shift. AltaVista went live. It was clean. It was terrifyingly fast. And it was dangerous to every established player in the game. Before AltaVista, searching the web was an exercise in frustration. It was like trying to find a specific needle in a global haystack while wearing a blindfold. Existing search engines like Lycos or 𝐓𝐡 were slow, manual, and often months out of date. AltaVista changed the math. It could handle millions of queries. It offered natural language search, meaning for the first time, you could actually ask a computer a question in plain English. Within just 3 short weeks, they were seeing 2 million visitors a day. In 1995, those numbers were unheard of. They were the undisputed kings of the new frontier. But here's where the shadows begin to lengthen. DEC, the parent company, was fundamentally a hardware company. They sold physical boxes. They didn't understand the invisible power of the portal. They looked at AltaVista as a demo to show off how fast their computers were, rather than the most valuable piece of digital real estate on the planet. As AltaVista reached the absolute peak of its cultural power, the engineers felt the victory. But they didn't see the storm clouds. A few miles away, in a cluttered garage, 2 Stanford students were watching AltaVista's every move. They were studying the king's mistakes. And they were preparing a coup that would ensure AltaVista's name would be systematically erased from the history books. Money has a way of changing people, but corporate ego has a way of destroying them. In 1998, a struggling DEC was bought by Compaq. Suddenly, the engineer's playground was no longer about innovation, it was a corporate asset that needed to be monetized. The new executives at Compaq looked at the clean, beautiful, simple AltaVista homepage and they didn't see a masterpiece of efficiency. They saw wasted space. They didn't see a tool that helped people find information, they saw a giant, digital billboard. In one of the most hated pivots in internet history, they decided to turn the fastest tool on earth into a portal. They followed the trend of Yahoo, cluttering the page with flashing ads, horoscopes, weather reports, and celebrity gossip. They took a sleek racing car and welded heavy, useless lead weights to the frame. We need to be everything to everyone, they claimed. But in trying to be everything, they became nothing. While AltaVista was busy adding shopping links and bloatware, Larry Page and Sergey Brin were doing the exact opposite. They launched Google with a page that was even cleaner than the original AltaVista. They stayed obsessed with speed while AltaVista became obsessed with ad revenue. In 1999, the ultimate what-if moment occurred. AltaVista had the chance to buy Google for a price that would seem like pocket change today. They could have swallowed their competition whole. But the leadership was blinded by their own press releases. They thought they were untouchable. They thought they had already won. Then, the dot-com bubble burst. The era of infinite spending came to a violent, crashing halt. The billions in valuation evaporated overnight. The users, tired of the slow load times and the cluttered ads, fled to the clean, white embrace of Google. The king wasn't just losing his crown, he was bleeding out in the streets. By the time Compaq desperately sold AltaVista to Overture, the brand was already a ghost of its former self. It was passed around the corporate world like a dying ember, losing heat with every transaction, until Yahoo finally bought the remains and extinguished the flame for good in 2013. If you type altavista.com into your browser today, you won't find a search engine. You'll find a simple redirect to Yahoo. It is a digital grave, a silent monument to a fallen giant. The tragedy of AltaVista isn't that they were beaten by a superior technology. In the beginning, their tech was actually better. The tragedy is that they were beaten by their own shattering lack of vision. They had the entire future of human knowledge in their hands, but they were too busy looking at the quarterly earnings of the past. In the high-stakes world of business, and in the quiet moments of our own lives, the lesson remains the same. The moment you stop solving a problem and start protecting your ego, is the exact moment you begin to die.